First of all, thank you for the grand introduction you gave about me. Today I am going to talk about a topic that is one thought can change your life. And I am going to tell you how one thought changed my life. I was born in an ordinary middle class family in Mumbai. My father was a clerk, accounts clerk in Indian Aluminum Company in their Kalwa factory. My mother, she was a punch operator in Advani Orlicon Company. And we did not have anybody who was there in the army. I was in about third standard when a visitor to our house, he asked me what I wanted to become when I grew up. I didn't know what to answer him, so I just kept quiet. Our house had a balcony behind. So I was standing in the balcony one day and I was thinking at what I'll become when I grow up. Just then at that time, a wagon train appeared from there. And on that wagon train, there were some armored tanks. And along with that, there were some army Jawans standing, smartly dressed in their uniforms with weapons. I was totally mesmerized by that sight. And there itself, I decided that I wanted to join the army. I told my parents that I wanted to join the army. They were also quite supportive. My father, in fact, he told me that he'll send me to Bhosla Military School. So these discussions kept on taking place in the house. But my parents didn't know how to go to Bhosla Military School. So that discussion still continued. On 1st April 1978, I met with an accident where I was hit by a speeding taxi while crossing the road. So I was in coma for 13 days after that accident because I had a head injury and I had got a collarbone fractured. And thereafter, I was on bed rest for around 2 months. During this period, my mother had a field day feeding me with the choicest of soups and dishes. By the time I recovered after 2 months, I was a stone heavier. I could not appear for my class 5 final exams, but they promoted me based on my earlier scores. Now I came to class 6th, and when I came there, my Bhosla Military School was discussed in the house, and since I had met with the accident and I had gone fat and all that, and I had a problem with remembering, so it was discussed and thrown out of the window. Class 6, I had a very tough time concentrating and focusing on my studies also. At the end of class 6, we came on a sightseeing tour to Pune. In those days, there's a Raka book depot in Pune. And the owner of the Raka book depot, he was a far-off relative of ours. So we went there to see the much talked about book depot. This gentleman, he gave me an offer. He said that you purchase 2 books from here and I'll give you 2 books free. I picked up 4 books on NDA entrance exam because I still wanted to join the army. In the meantime, I started running and putting miles under my feet. Class 7, class 8, class 9 was a tough job for me because I had genuinely had a problem focusing on my studies. Come to class 10, I managed to pass with a first class. In those days, it was considered to be quite good. My father was quite keen that I should do engineering. So I took admission for junior college in science. When I came to class 12, my father was very keen that I should appear for the joint entrance examination. He told me that I know you are very intelligent. And there was one more sentence he added. He said, you never know when luck strikes. I knew that luck doesn't strike for clearing joint entrance examination. I wanted to give the NDA entrance examination, but I never knew where the form will be available. And by the time I got that form, the last date for NDA entrance examination was out. Needless to say, my joint entrance examination was a preconceived disaster. When my father had purchased a 600-page book, which was always kept on the shelf above my head. It never came down. Out of those 600 pages, I had been able to tackle about 35 pages. I went for the joint entrance examination So there were 3 papers. On the first day, there were 2 papers. I gave those 2 papers. On second day, I left the examination after 1 hour because I knew that whatever I write in the paper, answer paper, the examiners are not going to understand it. Now, after class 12, obviously I had to take admission somewhere, so I took admission for BSc. And the miles under my shoes were still going on. I was still running. And I still had that passion in my mind that I wanted to join the army. So, when I was in first year BSc, we were a group of 5 friends. And we decided that we wanted to go on hikes. But there was no such club in the college for us to go on hikes. So I came with an idea that why not we'll start a club. So I discussed with my professors and convinced them. So we started a club and I named it the Powers Club. The Powo is our national bird, peacock. So Powers Club I started in my college. And in that year, I took 3 hikes to Bhimashankar. The first hike, our strength was 7. 5 of those are group and 2 professors. Second hike, the strength was 21. And the third hike which we went, the strength was 52. So in those days, that was a very big achievement for me to organize these 3 hikes in 1 year. Later, few more followed in the second and the third year. But that all I could do. Now I completed my graduation in May 1988. And thereafter, I had to do a job, so I was looking for a job. So my first job which I got was in Glaxo Pharmaceuticals as a medical representative. I even topped their pre-induction course. And I was posted to Baroda. When I went to Baroda, I realized that this is not what I wanted to do in life. Carrying a bag full of medicine samples, going to 10 doctors every day and briefing them that this is the expectorant and it does this, that and the other. No. On the 10th day, I took a bold decision. I sent a telegram to the Mumbai head office of the company that I am resigning. Caught the next train, came back to Mumbai. Now when I came back home, pandemonium broke loose. Because in every family, there are some characters who don't do any job throughout their life. So was I the next? That was the question. They asked me, what you will do now? I said, I'll see. Because I didn't have anything solid in my hand. But the only one thought was there in the mind that I have to join the army. Next morning, I went to the bookstall at the railway station. I picked up the employment news, turned the first page. And on page 3 was written in block capital letters, Join Indian Army. And below that was a Combined Defense Services examination form. I took the newspaper from there, went straight to the photo studio, got my photographs, went to the post office, got a postal order made, and the next day, my form was on its way to the authorities. Now, I filled the form for this entrance examination, and I knew that this was not easy. Combined Defense Services examination, to crack it, although it was not as good or as difficult as the joint entrance examination, but it was not easy either. And I had in my quiver only 4 books purchased 10 years ago of NDA entrance examination. So I purchased one Malayala Manorama yearbook and put it into my quiver. There were about 100 days with me before the written examination. So I studied almost 3 to 4 hours I put in on those 5 books every day. And within those 3 months, I must have read those books around 3 times. I went, appeared for the written examination, so it was quite good, and I came back. In the month of June 1988, I got a job in Megaware Computers as an assistant. And my pay at that time was 1,000 rupees a month. And this money was needed in my house, so I had to take that job. But now, see, that thought which was there in my mind, that had started yielding fruit. And luck had started coming onto my side. After 1 week of joining Megaware Computers, Captain Sheth, who had retired from the Indian Army, he joined Megaware Computers. After he joined, 1 week after that, the Combined Defense Services examination, written examination results came out, and I had passed the written examination. In fact, my name was 7th in the list. So I went and told Captain Sheth, and he was also quite happy. Luck further came to my help. 1 week after the results, one retired Subedar Thaplial, he joined Megaware Computers in the store management department. Now, after clearing the written examination, my biggest problem was how to crack the services selection board interview, because I knew that it is a 6 to 7 days interview, and they will ask you questions that your entire personality has to be out. So either you can make it or you don't make it, but this has to be cracked. To my luck, Subedar Thaplial had been on the ground testing officer panel of the services selection board interview. So Captain Sheth called him and told him, okay, you give him all the help, information, whatever you require. Now for the next 2 months, we had a staff bus which took us from Ghatkopar railway station to Sakinaka, to the office of Megaware Computers. So I used to sit next to Subedar Thaplial. He used to tell me, and I used to note down whatever he was telling me. So that was the way that I got my guidance for the services selection board interview. Since I had put Air Force as one of my choices, I was called to the Air Force Selection Center at Air Force Selection Board at Mysore. So I went to Mysore. Somewhere in the form, there was a hobby column written, in which I had written hiking. So those hikes which I had done at that time, they came to my assistance. Because the moment the interviewing officer started asking me about hiking, I knew everything about organizing the hike and what problems will come in between, and I had done it on ground. So anything that came to my help over there, and I cracked the services selection board interview in the first attempt. Although I did not crack the pilot aptitude test, but I had cleared the services selection board interview in the first attempt. Thereafter, I joined the Indian Military Academy in January 1991 and passed out as a commissioned officer in June 1991. And here I am today, standing in front of you after completing 30 years of commissioned service in the Indian Army and retiring last year. So this was my message, that if you have a strong thought in your mind, don't leave it. Because if you hold on to the thought, that thought will hold on to you and you will succeed in whatever you want to do. Thank you.